From beautiful downtown Metairie, Stephen Sabludowsky. Hi, Stephen. It's great to be with you today.
Okay. Actually, you kind of look. Is that a halo over you?
No, no.
Okay. Okay.
That was weird. That was strange. Let's get rid of that.
Okay. And if you don't mind, you want to show us your mustache?
You want to see them with the mustache? Let's see.
Yeah.
It is. Is it November anymore?
Sure, you can do it. There you are.
Okay.
Okay. So there's all kind of things we can do. Okay. So tell what's going on in the Greater New Orleans area. Michael Hecht of GNO Inc.
Well, we are continuing to see just tremendous growth in the region, both in absolute terms and relative to the rest of the country. We recently were ranked by Area Development Magazine as having the most cooperative state government in all of the United States, as well as being in the top five for incentives, economic recovery, speed of permitting, workforce training, cost of doing business, business climate, and labor climate. So we're continuing to get recognized for the really dramatic improvements that we've made recently. And actually, the most recent win occurred in downtown Metairie. Smoothie King, which is planning on becoming the Starbucks of smoothie going global, was really that close to leaving the state. Has now decided to make Metairie its home for its global expansion, leading towards an IPO, which is very exciting because this is a product and a company that was literally invented in New Orleans about 45 years ago.
Was it really? 45? Wow.
1967, Steve Kunow invented the smoothie to help him manage his allergies. And then in 73, out of his health food store, he started selling the smoothies, and that became Smoothie King, which has now been bought by a foreign national, a South Korean gentleman who wants to open 1,000 stores worldwide in the next 5 years. It's all going to be based out of Jefferson. So it's very exciting for us.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Now they were about to move to Texas. Is that correct?
They were 95% there when we were brought in. That's right. The feeling was that Dallas is really becoming the home for global food franchises. They thought that there was better airport connectivity, and somebody looking in, and this is important for us to recognize, Texas was seen as being the better business environment. So what we had to do was take him through step by step, very pedantically, all of the reasons why, in fact, Louisiana is both a superior business environment in general, but specifically for a company like Smoothie King, they were going to be able to get not only a better business deal here in New Orleans, but they were also going to get a level of attention from the governor on down that they would simply never get in Texas, where they would be a smaller fish in a much bigger pond. So ultimately, I think they made a decision which is not only great for New Orleans and Louisiana, but also great for the company, because they're going to get a level of support here in operating out of Jefferson that they just wouldn't get if they were in Dallas.
Sure. Now, what about, say, the digital media industry? I understand that's really booming. As you know, it's really close to my heart, technology and everything. And so how's that going?
Well, the digital media industry, thanks in part to some of the legislation that I think you were really involved in years ago, has made us now the fastest growing tech market in North America, arguably. Number one in percentage growth, number two in absolute job growth. We are quickly becoming known as another alternative to Austin or Seattle, one of the great second cities, I would call it, for digital media. If you look at our wins over the past year or so, you have companies like GE Capital with their IT Center of Excellence, Gameloft, number 2 developer of mobile video games in the world, Electronic Arts up in Baton Rouge, and dozens of smaller companies that are coming here now to get started. The fact is that we have a climate in terms of costs where we are much less expensive than a San Francisco or New York in terms of incentives, where we're literally best in North America, up to 35% of your production costs back as a rebate, a culture which is loved around the world. New Orleans was just voted best city in America by the readers of Travel and Leisure magazine. And then a leadership, which again starts with the governor, goes down to Secretary Moore at LED, and down, I would argue, all the way to the local business community, which is more aligned, able, and energized than any other leadership cadre in the country. It's a very exciting moment for us in digital.
It's absolutely amazing when you think about it in terms of Hurricane Katrina, and then 7 years later, the city of New Orleans and the region is really making this type of comeback. I'm just wondering, what do you think has been the major difference?
Well, I think the major difference.
Yeah, go on.
I'm sorry. Well, I think the major difference is that New Orleans has always been blessed and cursed by riches of natural resources, riches of culture. But for that reason, I think we were actually allowed to be a bit decadent and not manage them that well. And so the way I would think about New Orleans, specifically in Louisiana in general, is that for decades we were really a declining asset. We were an undermanaged asset, and as such we were perceived as a declining asset, meaning something that you don't invest a lot of money or time into, but you just kind of milk. And we were on a trajectory, arguably, to become kind of like a Key West, much loved, but quaint and not really important. And what Katrina did is it shook off, I think, the lethargy and made people realize that actually we weren't a declining asset, but an undermanaged asset. And with proper management, there was a ton of value to be extracted. And so we now have that better management in terms of political leadership, business leadership, civic leadership, and we are producing a lot of value for ourselves and for the country. So it was really that near-death experience of Katrina that made the difference. And you can see examples of this in cities historically. Maybe you look at Chicago coming back from the Great Fire of 1871, or even in people, where it takes somebody having a health crisis to make the changes in their lifestyle to actually help them live better. So,
you spent some time in San Francisco, am I correct?
That's right.
See any similarities, differences?
I see a lot of similarities here relative to San Francisco in the mid-'90s in Web 1.0. I was there at that time, and there was a sense in San Francisco of the possibility of us all doing well by doing good. We felt that with the internet, we were recreating the world. We were at the bleeding edge, and there was a real passion around that. A combination of a do-gooder impulse with a party hard impulse, I guess you'd say. I think there's a similar zeitgeist in New Orleans and Louisiana now. There's a real homesteader, recreating our world or creating a world anew attitude. Here, I think it's a product of the fact that 95% of the region was evacuated because of Katrina. So almost everybody who is here today is here because they've chosen to be here. They've made that conscious decision to come back. And that informs a level of kind of cohesiveness and an esprit de corps that you simply don't get in other places which haven't had that kind of traumatic experience and that collective decision to come back and rebuild. So there is definitely a similarity to San Francisco in terms of there being a collective spirit. Also, of course, on the tech side, the fact that we are a burgeoning tech community, I think, speaks to the creative cultures of the two cities. Both are kind of bohemian, eclectic cultures, and that I think is attractive to the Richard Florida type creative professional that you tend to see operating in the tech industry. And as we move into a world now where people increasingly are deciding where they want to live before where they're going to find a job, having an attractive culture that is welcoming to outsiders, that celebrates diversity, is becoming a competitive advantage. And I think it's working for New Orleans just as it worked for San Francisco.
What industry would you say is probably the best opportunity for this area? Is it digital media? Is it video, movies? Is it shipping? Tourism?
There are three. Well, so I guess I would give you the general and the specific. The general is that there are 6 industries that we look at GNO Inc. There are 3 that we call foundational, which are energy, trade, and advanced manufacturing, and then 3 that we call diversifying, which are digital, biomedical, and emerging environmental, which is us selling our technology and expertise around things like water and waste and energy, those things that are problems for us, but which we now have really world-leading expertise. Amongst those, though, I think the ones that are the biggest opportunities are going to be on our energy, where Louisiana is going to sit at the middle of the next great energy boom for America with our deep water projects going 2 miles to the bottom of the ocean floor. and then our land-based shale plays, America is moving towards energy independence, which is largely going to be based in the Gulf Coast. So there's energy. Then on the diversifying side, certainly digital, which we talked about, fastest growing in America, but also biomedical. If you look at Birmingham, a city two-thirds or a region two-thirds of our size, they created 53,000 jobs by building out their medical center and focusing on becoming a center of excellence, in their case ophthalmology. For us, if we do a similar thing and create a center of excellence maybe around neuroscience, if they created 50,000 plus jobs in Birmingham, imagine how many tens of thousands we can create here for the New Orleans region. So there's going to be huge growth in biomedical, in the medical corridor as well.
Do you have any feel in terms of the rail issue, the New Orleans to Baton Rouge rail issue? Has there any discussion going on regarding that?
There's a new study going on that we're doing through our super region committee in partnership with Baton Rouge, where we are reassessing the right way to do. People call it high-speed rail. It's not going to be high-speed rail in the true sense. People call it light rail. It's definitely not light rail, which is what streetcar is. It's going to be what I would call commuter rail. Idea is that you get an hour and 15-minute ride from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. I would stop at the airport, plus I would imagine a stop at La Place and maybe a stop in Gonzales. So you get there reliably, safely. You could work on the train. You come down to New Orleans for a football game, for example. And now with the new streetcar being built from Canal Street to Loyola, you will have opportunity really to take a train all the way from Baton Rouge into the French Quarter.
Any chance of, do you think that's going to be something that is funded, that does pass, that we'll see rails from, say, Baton Rouge to New Orleans and back?
I couldn't hear you. You were breaking up there. No, I'm kidding. I think that this is something that we will see. In the midterm. I don't think it's going to happen immediately, but I think that we are laying the groundwork right now through the study that we're executing, through the partnership that we have with Baton Rouge, so that it will happen at some point. I think it'll probably begin over the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, that was a good one, Michael. One last question I had, and that is Panama Canal. How is Louisiana? How's the southern part of Louisiana and New Orleans position for the expansion?
Well, this is something that a few years ago when I started here, the idea or the thought was that the expansion of the canal was going to really be a game changer for New Orleans and Louisiana. We actually did 2 studies. We did one, the state did another one, trying to understand if this is the case. And what we discovered is because of 2 major factors. 1, population density, or rather lack of it, compared to Atlanta or Houston. And 2, because of the size of the ships, which are really so enormous that they can't get up the river, that really the Panama Canal widening is something that is going to benefit New Orleans, but not disproportionately. We thought that we would see something around a 7% year-on-year increase in cargo. And so we're going to be able to handle that, we think, by building out the Napoleon Avenue complex and having that go up to the ability to handle 2 million TEUs. But the idea that we can build a $2 billion facility at the mouth of the river or in Plaquemine or up at the Obamacare spillway is one that the analysis just doesn't seem to bear out. It just doesn't look like we're going to get that volume here because of the population and physical constraints. Rather, we're going to have these large post-Panamax boats transshipping from Kingston, Jamaica, or the Bahamas, and then we'll be getting smaller ships in New Orleans.
Actually, I do have one other question, if I may, and that is that yesterday Governor Jindal announced a mega deal around Lake Charles. And I'm just wondering, how can this region here, which is more southeast of Lake Charles, of course, how do we benefit from it?
Well, what was just announced was a liquid natural gas deal in Lake Charles with Sasol, which is probably the biggest deal in the history of the state, between $16 and $21 billion.
That's incredible.
It's a massive 1,500 direct jobs, another 5,500 indirect jobs, I believe. Liquid natural gas projects are going to occur throughout the state. We have a couple that are in the double-digit billion-dollar zone in our region in Baton Rouge that people are looking at. So the fact that that international companies are choosing Louisiana, anywhere in Louisiana, for these massive projects serves to validate the state for other projects. So I'm very pleased that this happened. in Lake Charles, and there's no doubt that that at a minimum the branding knock-on effect is going to be positive, and I'm sure there also will be workers from the New Orleans region and companies from the New Orleans region that benefit in direct or indirect ways at all. So it's a win for all of Louisiana. A real credit to everybody involved.
We'll just have to get a rail spur from New Orleans to Lake Charles.
We could do that, or maybe I was thinking setting up maybe a gondola service to the Intercoastal Waterway that that you can help with there, maybe. So
that's not a bad idea. Absolutely. Well, Michael Hecht, look, I really appreciate you taking your time, and thank you for this. Is that? I thought so. Yes, I thought we'd end with that.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. I've got some snorkeling to do out there, so it's been great talking to you, Steven. Goodbye.
Well, yes, Lake Charles is a good place to do that.
You have to see it.
Oh, back again. Oh, that was great. Anyway, yeah, a pleasure talking with you. This technology, it's just really fabulous technology we're using here. Certainly helps express each other more fully. But I appreciate what you've done to support all of this, particularly digital media here in Southeast Louisiana. It is the most exciting sector that we have right now. And if you think about how quickly we've remade or expanded the economy, it's really only been about 5 years. It's something that we should all be tremendously proud of and be very optimistic about.
Thank you, Michael. Take care of yourself. And we'll do it again, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, Cyber Steven.
That's it.